Enemy sniper spotted in you, okay?
Hey everyone, Anonymous Auto here, and I have a Battlefield 3 commentary with gameplay for you fine ladies and gentlemen. As you can tell, I am playing back to Karkand, Conquest Assault, running the P90 with, I believe, the flash suppressor, a flashlight, and a red dot sight. I'm pretty sure that's my setup, although I could be wrong. But, again, not here to talk about the gameplay as much, but what I do want to touch on is the people in Battlefield 3. And I'm not here to, bitch and moan about people not, playing the objective or something like that. What I wanted to discuss is player roles in Battlefield 3. Like, who you are as a player, what is your identity in Battlefield 3? And so what I mean by that is, do you find yourself often in a certain class, say medic or engineer, or do you find yourself flying the chopper a lot or the jet a lot? And these are the sort of archetypes that you find yourself sort of falling into when you play Battlefield 3. And I would class myself as a jack of all trades with a specialty in both gun-on-gun skill and chopper piloting. And I often find myself hopping into the chopper, not only because I consider myself good at it, but it's also fun. And it's fun because I consider myself to be good at it. So I often take the role of the guy who, grabs the Viper or the Havoc, and one of my squad mates will often jump into the gunner seat, and we will do pretty well. It's not very often that we get shot down, and when it is, it's usually a chopper-on-chopper battle, which ends up being AA spam. But that is another commentary in and of itself. But so, that's one part of one of my major, facets of my identity, I would say. And the other part is gun-on-gun. I'd say that's definitely one of my biggest strengths in Battlefield 3 is my ability to read my opponent's movements and predict where they're going to go, what they're going to do, and how to really set myself up for a advantageous position to really give myself the biggest chance of winning in a firefight. Because honestly, I don't have that great of aim. It's alright. It's maybe slightly above average, but it's nothing special. I'm really bad at sniping. I can't really do that well at all, unless it's like a stationary target, but even then, I still end up missing. So I think my natural intuition and my ability to react quickly to enemy player movements really allows me to set myself up in a position where I can, win a firefight. And I think that's one of my key strengths in Battlefield 3, and that's why I often pull pretty decent kill-death ratios, depending on the map, and, depending on how seriously I'm taking it. But, what I wanted to discuss and inquire, to you guys is, what are your roles? Like, what do you often find yourself doing in Battlefield 3? Other than, like, flying choppers, and being the gun-on-gun, the Slayer sort of type. I also find myself flying choppers, taking tanks around, driving the Jeep, driving a transport chopper too. These are all very valuable roles that all fit in well together in Battlefield 3. So I find myself, dropping into these roles, dropping in and out of them to sort of suit the team's needs and my squad's needs. So, and also part of the discussion is that, like, do people, do they think critically of themselves enough? And I'm not saying critically as in, oh wow, I really suck at X, Y, and Z. I'm saying I could do this and this and this better, and here's how, here's why, or, something like that. I think a lot of things, or a thing that most Battlefield play, well, not actually Battlefield, but players of video games or anything for that matter, in general, is that a lot of people don't take a step back and really assess what they are good at, what they are doing, like if what they're doing is actually helping out the team. A good way of judging whether or not you are, quote unquote, good at something is how much it's helping out your team. Are you guys getting constantly dominated? And if so, is it because you're in the chopper all the time and not, killing the enemy enough, or taking out the enemy aircraft enough, or killing the enemy armor? It could be a variety of different things. So I found in Battlefield 3 there's, 3 distinct kind of roles, at least to me. There's vehicle roles, class roles, and squad roles, which I'll get into a bit later. So the first thing is vehicle roles. And it's pretty self-explanatory. What vehicle do you find yourself hopping into quite often? Is it, the choppers or the tanks, stuff like that. And then I think something that a lot of people could benefit from and should do is look at how good am I? How much of what I'm doing is benefiting the team, rather than just padding my stats, for instance. The map Sharkey Peninsula really comes to mind. They're on the I want to say free flag variant. Yeah, the last flag, the Charlie flag, is completely inaccessible by tank. You can't get it within the capture radius. So actually 2 flags, the Alpha flag and also the Charlie flag, are both inaccessible by tank. So if you're sitting in the tank the entire game, you gotta take a step back and say, is this helping my team? Am I helping my team to the maximum of my ability? Would I be better off, going gun on gun with the enemy and really getting up there in the flags, rather than, just sitting in the chopper the entire time? So I think that's something that, not only the team, but your squad and yourself could also benefit from. Because if you're going to hop out that tank and start doing work on the ground, as opposed to, fiddling around in tank and just taking pot shots at people who are at, buildings that you can't even touch, realistically. So I think that's something that a lot of players don't really want to admit. Everybody likes to talk about how they're great at, a certain role, but they don't really admit that they're bad too much, And I think that's the first step into really improving your game, is identifying those key areas where you find yourself lacking. Like myself, I'm not a great jet pilot. I'm okay, and I can, get kills on, lower skill players pretty easily. But as soon as someone, equal or above my skill joins the game, I can't really do anything. It usually either ends up in a stalemate sort of thing where both jets are spinning around in a circle around each other, or I end up getting destroyed pretty easily. And so that's, at that time, I decided that, okay, I'm not going to be effective in the jets. It's time to sort of concede the air superiority to the enemy team. And oftentimes that can be, or not oftentimes, but sometimes that can be a bad thing. You don't want the enemy team to have complete air dominance. But sometimes it can be a pretty benign sort of choice, and giving up air superiority will not really affect the outcome of the game too much. So in vehicles, I think that people should really assess what vehicles do they find themselves going to, and how they can improve that, and how much it's actually helping the team. If you're flying around in a jet all the time and you're going like 40, that's great. But if your team is down by 300 tickets, you should probably get out and maybe capture some flags. It's just a suggestion. And oh my gosh, I have used all my gameplay talking about one part of this. So if this cuts off suddenly, I will throw up some more gameplay. It's going to be a long topic. So the second thing I want to talk about is class roles. And what I mean by this is that whatever kit you pick up, be it recon, support, assault, or engineer, each one sort of has its own little subclass to it. For instance, medic has the they had the med kits or the launchers or. Sorry about that. I ran out of gameplay footage, so I picked up something from the Battlefield O / DRMB server Conquest, and I'm not 100% sure what you're going to be looking at. But anyways, like I was saying, the classes, they each have their own sort of little sub-roles. And engineer can be completely anti-vehicle, or it can be really, what am I trying to say? Beneficiary to the team more in the fact that it can grab a repair tool, you know, or they can go with the route of grabbing a Stinger or an RPG or Javelin, and those all have their own benefits and their own little sort of, what am I trying to say? Their own sort of situational roles. Like, you know, Stinger's not going to be any use against a tank, and RPG is not going to be much use against a chopper unless you get lucky. So, again, people need to identify what is, you know, their strong suit when it comes to these sort of class roles. If you're really good at gun on gun, then you know you should be up there in the thick of it with an assault rifle and playing medic, and probably maybe not with a med kit, but going forth with something like a underbarrel shotgun or a launcher to really put more emphasis onto, you know, your killing ability. Or let's say you're not as good of a gun-on-gun player. Maybe you should take a more reserved, a more supportive role by throwing down medkits in the back of your team's, you know, initial or main charge, and really keep it, you know, more reserved. Drop ammo or drop, you know, medkits, something like that, and really play to your strong suit. So it really depends on the player, and I think, you know, there's a lot of, just like with vehicles, there's a lot of things that certain people, or there's things that certain people are good at, and there's things that certain people are bad at. And there's certain people who are really good at one thing but really suck at another. And there's always room for improvement. There's always the chance for you to really practice that certain skill and, you know, really nail it so that you are good at it, and so that if you ever decide to pick up that role, you can, you know, benefit your team more than before. So, yeah, anyways. And then the final sort of role that I'd like to talk about is the role in your squad. And this really only applies to people who run with like a regular group of people that they play Battlefield 3 with. And I myself have my clan in quotation, because we're not really a clan, we're just a group of guys who play together, N7. And there's no real leader, so to speak. I mean, on Battlelog I've founded the whole platoon, but I don't really give orders. I don't tell people that they need to do this or that. It's more of a lateral sort of structure, because, you know, we're all feeding each other information, we're all giving each other recommendations, and, you know, talking to each other as equals, and no one really takes the lead, so to speak. I mean, we're all pretty good players, I'd say. We're pretty above average, and when we get together, we really, I suppose this is pretty much regular for all like coordinated squads, but we win a lot of games, and we win them often. Against public matches, of course, we never played in clans. Well, we have, but not like in actual organized clan matches, and nor will we ever, probably. But it's, I think that, again, you gotta assess what your role is. In my situation, there really isn't a role to take. I mean, we all just sort of are there. You know, we just play together, and we just, you know, none of us is really in charge. Well, I know there's certain clans or groups of people who play, and there's a very distinct leader, a guy who dominates, you know, conversations. He's the best player. He's best at X or Y or Z, and because of that, he is the leader. And if you find yourself in a situation that, like, they're getting to the point where none of that none of your input really matters because they're the leader, that they're better than you or something like that. You really need to assess. Sorry about that. But you need to assess, like, what is my role as this person's subordinate? Am I really beneficial to the entire team and squad doing this assigned job? And if you're not, you know, maybe you should switch clans or something like that, or you know, find something else to do. Because if you're not playing chiefly to have fun, and second, how you want to, then frankly, I don't see a point in being in a clan that would control you like that. And I'm sure there's not very many clans like that, although probably there are some out there, but, you know. So in a squad, you gotta realize, and if there is sort of a leader, it's just like the guy who founded the entire thing, who's, you know, giving people commands and stuff, but he's not really telling you what to do well, or he's not giving you, you know, actually decent suggestions, then maybe, you know, he as a person should probably reassess, like, what he's doing, you know, as this leader, but you should also assess what he's doing wrong. So anyways, guys, I'd like to hear your thoughts on the topics I discussed in this video down in the comment box. So yeah, what are your roles? What do you find yourself doing good at? Or not doing good at, but doing well? And, yeah, other than that, thanks, I guess, for the comment if you do leave one. But, until next time, guys, I'm Anonymous Autumn. Catch you guys later.